Welcome to The Midpoint, conversations with the extraordinary people building the American innovation economy from the inside out. I'm Patrick McKenna, founder of One America Works. Welcome to The Midpoint. I'm Patrick McKenna, founder of One America Works and partner at Comeback Capital. Today, I'm joined by Charles Robinson, partner at 1888 Ventures, among many other things. I am extremely excited for this conversation today. There are few people who I feel like have just hit every aspect of the ecosystem: founder, scaled a company, personal investor as an angel, formed it up into a more formalized kind of investing platform, has done nonprofit work, been advocating for places outside of the typical kind of entrepreneur and investor scenes and areas, and has a regional thesis. So I don't want to steal any thunder here, but I feel like I was saying my own bio as I'm running through yours, Charles. So I'm super excited to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you, Patrick, man. I need to take you on the road with me. I love that.
Well, what would be helpful, you and I haven't spoken before, so this is going to be real off the cuff, getting to know each other. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about your background, how you got involved in tech startups and in investing, like just a little snippet of where you come from?
Yeah, so let's see, like how I got involved. I mean, I want to say first is just relationships with friends who are doing cool things and partnering up with them. That's kind of how I initially got started. But I'll go back to where I graduated. Graduated from Duke, go Blue Devils. And then from there, worked in investment banking for a couple of years. Left and wanted to try and figure out what I wanted to do. So I worked at an ad agency, unpaid intern. I worked at a tech startup called Beast Trader. Didn't
It's
do
so
great
funny.
at
It's
all.
like we started. I worked in investment banking first too. I was in the Army after
Mhm.
I went to college on a scholarship, went to the Army, and then worked in investment banking. Was like, this is not for me.
Ain't it?
Right. Right.
The funny part is like how it circles back and I'm in investing still, but it's just like because I was working in 2008 when the crash happened, so it
Oh,
was just
bet.
a lot of craziness and everybody like because I played football as well, so I've been through the rigmarole of like
Okay.
yelling and upset and all that stuff, but this took the cake. So yeah, man. So from there, just bounced around, and then one of my friends and classmate and teammate Zach Marie just hit me up about Teamworks,
Mhm.
and it's a sports tech company, and that's where I
Very
really
successful, right? I mean, I think you guys
yeah
raised like $100 million. You have
yeah.
huge market share. Can you talk a little bit about Teamworks? I think that's an exciting company that I really hadn't heard of before.
Yeah, so Teamworks, now we're called the operating system for all athletics. The goal, well, first, we just recently raised Series D, around 50 million to continue to do the roll up of different companies. We acquired a few others, and definitely continuing on that path. One thing I love, about the sports tech world, but even more so just the team about Zach, he's one of those guys, you have like a little dot, he's going to hit that dot consistently. And even if you're successful and everyone has when you're successful, everybody has so many ideas on what you should do. And he's like, nah, I'm gonna keep hitting this one
Mhm.
dot until I get the
Focus.
maximum type of potential. So anyways, long story short, we work with a lot of sports teams, to be the operating system. It started out mostly being communications and, like calendar, things like that, and just turned into the entire ecosystem. So that was what Teamworks is in a nutshell. And then from there, started another company called Forward Cities with Christopher Gergen, another Dookie. And that was a lot focused on diverse entrepreneurial ecosystems. And that's
Wait,
where I
Chris
started.
Gergen?
Yep, Christopher Gergen.
He and I are classmates at Georgetown.
Christopher Gergen, like David Gergen's son?
Yeah. Awesome. Small
Yeah,
world. I love it. Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got to take a picture real quick and then send it to him. I know we're like on air, but
It's fine.
uh
It's fun. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, Christopher Gergen. Yeah, so you probably are familiar with Forward Cities then.
Yeah. I was familiar with it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
Christopher and I we're doing it together. So yeah, so initially it was called Bull City Forward,
Mhm.
before it was Forward Cities, and then when it became Forward Cities, and then CEOs for cities. There was a lot of things happening, like a reverse merger type situation, but it put us on a national platform, and he and I really just again, the biggest thing I could say is it's about relationships. Christopher and I hit it off because we talked a lot about life entrepreneurship, because of the book he wrote and all of those good things. So he and I were trying to live out those principles with this startup while trying to do good, but also understanding at the end of the day, nonprofits should also be just as successful from a talent, from a budget as for-profit organizations. And that's the goal that we sought out to. So from there, I kept noticing the same thing over and over, no matter where I went throughout the country, was lack of access to capital, access to network, and investment opportunities / real estate is what I really would call it. So that's when I decided to jump into being more on the investor side. You're always going to have to dance to make money. I just want to try and figure out, how do I actually be the person writing the check? So that's where I jumped into commercial real estate and started Robinson Capital Group, and then also started angel investing in certain deals. So from Canva to Nutellus, and then being an angel investor in some of my friends' syndications, and then moved out to Atlanta, still back and forth to Durham as well. There's still some things I do over there. But, that's where I decided that, I want to start a fund, 1888, and that's where we focused on the Southeast region.
Wow. So this is such a perfect story, because one of the big things that we talk a lot about here is what we call the trust network. So Silicon Valley being this idea of like, it's a place, but it's not really. It's about trusting, that somebody has worked a certain place, funded a certain way, is going to think a certain way, is going to be thinking about innovation a certain way. And, as you expand out from Silicon Valley, you get access to this kind of very important network that we kind of base on trust. And your story, Duke, sports, being in a startup for 10 years, Chris is a particular trust network node. And now you're expanding that network, that trust network node, through your investing. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. I mean, I love the language you use with node. I mean, that's the key to a lot of this stuff. The ecosystem, whether that's financial ecosystem, whether that's the venture ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, it's all based off of a set of nodes. So yeah, you're 100% right. And the big idea is, how do we, particularly for folks who typically, are not getting access to capital, like, how do we use the nodes of the network to work together to help close the wealth gap for all? And that's the big piece here, because the reality is, there are a lot of talented people, but the talent only gets you so far if you're not known. The talent only gets you so far if you don't get access to the opportunities to participate and use that talent. So I'm just trying to figure out ways that I can get myself and my family more shots on goal, but then also create more opportunities for a lot of folks to get more shots on goal as well, to create wealth for their families as well.
Yeah, it's so true, because you can have an incredibly talented person operating in a very isolated situation, and no matter how talented they are, they're not going to be able to amplify and live up to their full potential. Right. So if that talented person could get access, not just to money, but like connected capital, somebody can help them get the next investor, think about the next milestone. And then the talent network. So every entrepreneur, this, right? You were 10 years in a growth company, is you're only as good as the people around you. Yeah. And the bigger your network, your trust network, you can start recruiting better people to amplify your big idea. So capital, people, and then you get customers, and it builds out from there. But it really does get down to that network. It sounds like you've lived that experience.
Yeah, man. I mean, quite frankly, my experience has been, let me start by saying this. I'm more of a pirate than an entrepreneur. I'm not one of those folks.
Very quotable. You're very quotable on that, Charles. I love it.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'm more of a pirate than an entrepreneur. I am, I'm the guy to root for the underdog. I know I may be on the platform, but I have not been always been the guy that was picked on the team always. Like, I was the underdog, and, to find ways to, participate at the scale and level that I've been able to participate on is not only just a dream come true, but, my goal is to try and figure out, how do I get more folks who are like me, who think like, there's no way I'm able to, stand toe to toe or in the same room as some of these people, and shift that perception, let them know, like, at the end of the day, tear this whole thing down. You have a blank canvas. You can do whatever it is you want to do. I know I sound Tony Robbinsy, and that's not the goal, but it really is the truth. You like, I'm a
Man, if you don't
walking
believe in
example.
yourself, how can you expect other people to believe in you, right? It's that
Exactly.
simple.
You got to have some conviction and some relentless pursuit towards your dreams and goals. You can't be denied. It's just got to be some tenacity there.
So, 1888 Ventures, this is really interesting to me because you do have a lot of experience. And as a pirate, I get that. I understand, like, original tech, we're all pirates, right? Trying to take
Exactly.
down
You know what I'm talking
IBM,
about.
trying to take down Microsoft. So the pirate mentality is actually, I think, a really good framework, especially when you have limited resources, right? You don't have the
Mhm.
benefits of, riding a big ship. You got to actually do more with less. Um, can you talk about 1888 Ventures and, like, what are you looking for? And then think for a minute, like, if people wanted to pitch you, like, what are you looking for in entrepreneurs and teams?
Great question. I mean, you asked a lot there. So first, geographically speaking, we're focused on the Southeast. We go as far west as Louisiana, far north is DC, far south is Florida. So if you're in those geographical locations, we definitely want to take a look at you. Now we're open to opportunities outside of that. We have a small percentage of the fund that we want to take a look at, companies outside of that. You have to have, from an entrepreneur standpoint, you have to have some like technical expertise in the field that you're looking for. That's one. You also have to be able to answer the question, why now? Because if you can't, if it doesn't matter why now, you could do it next year, you could do it 5 years from now. Being able to answer the question why now. You also have to have uh, what I consider like the grit to be able to, not be denied, be persistent, and consistent. Those are the core pieces that, I look for in entrepreneurs specifically. Then from a business standpoint, if you don't have any revenue, the first thing I look at is your team. What is your team constructed of? Technical founders, sales folks. Do you have a cohesive team? Is there a product market fit or a business market fit? Things like that. And then lastly, to round this thing off, lastly is just the market. Is the TAM large enough? Is your business market large enough? We're looking at around 10 billion TAM. And then I don't want to get too detailed because I don't want to pigeonhole myself, but that's probably the short and skinny of what we typically look for in founders. And I'm excited to connect with anyone who wants to connect with me. You can follow me on Twitter at 1888 Ventures on Twitter. I'll definitely connect with the folks that way. And then also, I'm very rarely on Instagram. If anyone is on Instagram, I'm like almost never on it. But if you want to DM me, I can DM you. It's laughable how much I'm not on it. But at Charles Robinson on there, and then you guys can reach out to me through social media, and I can connect you with you guys from there or LinkedIn.
The why now is really important. In my investing, I have 4 questions. It's why this, which is like, why
Hmm.
this? Like, why is this important, right?
Hmm.
Why now? But, like, is there some catalyzing technology? Is there regulatory change? Is there some new platform? Is there something about now that makes it now, right? Um,
Exactly. Yeah, I
and
mean,
then
I
it's
love
like,
that. I mean, go ahead. What you gonna say?
I was gonna say the other is like, why you? You mentioned
Now
too,
that's
like, it's why you,
strong.
like, why are you the person? Like, what's your conviction, your background, your technical insight? What do you know before other people know it? And then
Hmm.
the last one that I like to think of as, doing more regional investing is why here? Like, how
Mm.
is where you're doing it a competitive advantage? And your fund is set up with a regional focus. I mean, can you make the pitch for why the Southeast?
Oh man, I love that. So there's a couple of things I want to say within the Southeast. First, when I think about the Southeast, one, 400%, there's been a 400% increase in capital deployment in the Southeast in just last year alone. So folks are understanding and seeing the benefit of that. And if anyone who's familiar with the power law, the more that you invest, the more opportunities you have to win. And there are so many entrepreneurs that are coming up in the Southeast. and more capital is coming in. So that's first. You already got a pool of folks who are recognizing the talent. Two, it's untapped. And what I mean by untapped, 55% of minorities live in the Southeast. However, the capital is around 1.8% for all distribution, and Georgia alone is 3.41% that actually was deployed in Georgia alone to women and people of color and things like that. The reason why I give that opportunity is because if you look at the whole pie, just in general, when it comes to deployment of capital, you just got opportunities to invest in good companies, because you're always going to find, companies that pop up here and there. They got great companies, great companies in Texas, great companies in Louisiana. Like they pop up all over the place. But then if you start to find the ones that you typically don't see, and they turn out to be just as qualified and just as good, now you have an opportunity, one, to catalyze innovation through capital. You have another opportunity to be able to invest in opportunities that other people don't get a chance to invest in. So you get most of that market share. And then two, you're creating more jobs in that economy, which stimulates more growth. So more people start to come. So then you create this, cyclical node, going back to your language, this cyclical node that just continue to spit out more talent, more ecosystems, which reminds me of the Silicon Valley. Start to build that trust, start to find those rebels, those pirates that was against the status quo, push the envelope, and that's the reason why the Southeast.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, all the data is really compelling, right? The size of the market, the size of the talent pool, it's underinvested, which means that there's more opportunity for the capital. So you're making a very strong investment thesis on why you're there and why other investors should be focused on the region, right? Just from a business perspective, are there any verticals or particular types of businesses that, call in the next 3 to 5 years are going to be more successful in the Southeast?
Oh, absolutely, man. I was just writing this down today because we're working through some fund construction. AI. I know everybody's talking about it, but if you have been under a rock, Chat GPT, if you haven't heard about it, definitely check that out. But there are other forms of AI that, Chat GPT is probably like one of the, breakthrough technologies that will spin out to other different things. But that's one piece of it. Prop technology, prop tech, to be, using the lingo. The reason why I say that is because the UN has come out and said by 2050, we'll be at 68% urbanization globally. So what that means is, in a nutshell, is that we have to find faster, less expensive, less technical talented ways to get buildings built, single family homes built, and prop technologies another. Fintech. Globally, we're starting to see the democratization of capital and the way that we do that. We saw a little bit of that in crypto, and I know crypto has gotten the bad rap, but there are other forms of that. So those are kind of like the verticals that I'll start that I like to look at. There are other ones as well, but I would say, AI, fintech, prop tech, those are the ones that, I'm really bullish on.
I agree with you. And those three trends are, particularly compelling in the next, 3 to 5 years. And then in the Southeast, you have really amazing universities that a lot of times get overlooked for talent. You mentioned Atlanta. I'm very familiar with the talent around Atlanta. Nashville, another place with just tremendous talent. There's the Research Triangle in North Carolina. And so there's a ton of talent. And if just a small amount of that talent doesn't leave for Boston or Seattle or San Francisco and stays home because they get access to the capital, the transformation is powerful. I think we're both singing from the same hymnal, so to speak, which is something I wanted to ask you about. You seem to really lead with your heart. If I could, be kind of bold with that statement. The work that you've done, the way you kind of connect what you want to do with helping people. What's in your background that makes that such a motivating aspect of your work?
I mean, like I said before, I've been the underdog almost all my life. I mean, quite frankly, I was the nerd guy, like literally, like I'm a magician, chess. I used to have glasses before I got LASIK. I mean, I don't even know how to explain how much of an underdog I was.
By the way, we share another thing. I was on the high school chess team as well. So Nerds
We got
for
to get a
Giants.
couple games in at some point. So I think we're in a time, and this might be a little funny, but like the revenge of the nerds. I mean, like the ones that usually were counted out are the ones that are on the cap tables or running the businesses and starting the companies. But I lead with my heart because of empathy. And I think that is probably one of the key and core aspects of being a leader in general is having empathy. And I try to put myself in the shoes of anyone. I don't care from what color or creed you come from. You can be really wealthy, I have to have empathy. You can be really poor, I have to have empathy. You can be extremely smart, have empathy. You can have a lot of struggling when it comes to intelligence. I have a lot of empathy. So, for me, that's probably the way I lead my heart. But I want to be very clear too. Me leading with my heart does not mean I compromise on my results. Any of my team that I talk to, I say I do not confuse effort with results. I don't care if it takes you 15 hours or 2 or 30 minutes. We have to hit the target because I lead with my heart. We have to make sure that we score on where we say we're going to score. We got to hit the target where we say we have to hit the target. And if we don't, the people that we have empathy for will not see the results that we're trying to deliver, whether that's in our investors, whether that's the customers, whether that's the people employees that decided to follow us and take on the responsibility and leaving their previous jobs to come work with us. Any and everything we do, we're doing it for those people that trusted in us.
There's a bit of a paradox on the performance aspect of your empathy, right? Is it more loving and empathetic to tell somebody that their work is falling short and that they can do better, or to accept lower quality so you can just kind of pass them along? And it does seem very clear that giving somebody constructive feedback and raising the bar so they can actually achieve a higher potential is way more empathetic and loving than accepting a lower inferior result. I really hear that coming through with you.
100%, man. Anybody I work with and anybody who meets me, one of the first questions I ask them when we're talking is, what's your why? Like, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want? What do you need? And there's this guy recently I was talking to, and he was talking about Web3 and wanting to get into blockchain, becoming an investor and all the dream stuff. And I just asked him his why, and he was like, for his daughter. He has a 16-year-old daughter. He loves his family. His family has given so much to him. He wants to, be able to give back. And going back to the results piece that you were talking about, I want to make sure that anybody who has their ambition, that their work ethic matches their ambition. So as a leader, it's my responsibility. We're talking about the bell curve, and you're talking like you want to be in the 90th percentile. Your work ethic and the way that you accomplish and hit results has to match, because the reality is this: the people that you see that are successful, they're not doing anything different than what you have been able to execute on. They just execute on that every single day, nonstop. And I tell the teams all the time, listen, what separates you from someone else is your ability to execute every single day when you don't feel like it, when your wife pisses you off, when your kids pisses you off, when it's raining outside, and you thought it was going to be a sunny day, when you get a ticket on your car and it's 400 something dollars. Like anytime those things and obstacles come in your way, are you able to execute? And that's the piece that I push for results from an empathetic standpoint.
That's a real athlete's perspective, right? Every day, making it better and not relying on yesterday's effort for today's results. That was excellent. Now, you've kind of given as we're kind of wrapping up a little bit here, you've given me your why and little touches and little tastes here, but maybe I can just ask you directly, what is your why?
Man, I look at my why in this way. I have two ways to paint it. So one, I like to draw pictures, and I'm a picture guy. So part of my why, I'm like paint a picture. And then the other part of my why, I kind of use more of like the words and kind of bullet points and things like that. So from the picture standpoint, I want to be able to, have a set of friends that, we built some really deep relationships. And it could be, I don't care how large it is, but I want to have a group of friends that whenever I call on them or they call on me, that I am there to support them to accomplish their goals. And the reason why is this: we go out into some retreat at this round table, and we talk about how we solve the world's problems and whatever it is that we want to accomplish. And we say, all right, I'll put in this amount of money, I'll put in this amount of money, I'll use this resource, and we actually make it happen without having to go to someone else. Within our own ecosystem, we can be the change we want to see. So I want to do that, for myself, and then also do that within my family.
And so then maybe what's like what's it differently, like what's the one sentence of what Charles Robinson's why is?
One sentence. Close the wealth gap for the folks that usually don't get it.
I love it. Well, Charles, it's been absolutely a pleasure having this conversation today. I'm sure this is just the first of many. I can see lots of ways for us to work together. We share a lot of motivations, and I look forward to, let's find some investments to do together. That'd be really fun.
I'm down, man. I love that. That's the best way to build some relationships, getting some business together.
Okay. All right. Thanks again. We appreciate you joining us.
All right, brother. Take care.